Close right dive on it.
This is twice now the Celtics have been first to the floor.
Trying to save with Horford. Unbelievable.
Lost it first to the floor. So good.
Brown fakes, fires up the three. Tatum dives on the floor. Everybody dives. Jaylen Brown with the flush. Blocked by Porzingis. He's doing it all. Tatum spinning, driving, layup. Washington drives. Blocked by White. Oh, what a block from Derek White.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Tonight, the honorary ring ceremony. We're handing out some hardware to some Celtics who are a beloved part of the journey along the way to Banner 18. Joining me for this prestigious occasion, Wayne Spooney and Jake Eisenberg. Guys, how we doing?
Good, man. Good. I'm excited to relive the past a little bit here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be great. What's more prestigious, this or our yearly awards? I think it might be this. Yeah, I know. It's two, like, Grammys, yearly awards, honorary rings.
Like,
it's all, they're all up there.
It's like, who's your favorite child? It's just impossible to answer.
Yeah. Well, it's like Tatum, like, he really enjoyed the first team All-NBAs, but the ring was what really, cemented it. Right. So I think this one is probably going to be the one that
tops it.
Yeah, exactly. Goes on the mantelpiece, front center.
That's right. These are those are every year. This is, maybe once in a lifetime for some of these guys. So,
yeah. The honorary ring that Tatum gets when he's like 35 and no longer a Celtic and we win another chip, that might be the best ring he has. Look, before we get to this prestigious ceremony, Wayne Spooney, Joe Mazzulla had the pleasure of meeting you this past weekend.
Yeah.
Got the photo here. Now, we don't have any of the details about how this photo occurred other than it was taken on the football field there at WVU. So, Spooney, you've been reserving the details to drop them on us on this pod. So we're all excited to hear how this exactly came to be.
Yeah, just, me and my best new friend, Joe, we really hit it off. So how I got into that position is not particularly exciting. I had said a couple times over the past month or two that, like, Joe was coming to town for the kickoff of the college football season. So they had, like, a big dinner. And he was the keynote speaker dressed like that in sweatpants. But tickets were $1,300, right? So we did not. Yeah. So the night before, my wife is like, my friend just said they have 2 open seats at their table. Do you want to go tomorrow? I'm like, obviously fucking yeah, I want to go. Thinking like maybe I would have a chance to be near Joe, never thinking I'd be able to just he was just like walking around in the crowd. And I ended up sitting next to our college coach, our basketball coach, like the whole night, just chilling next to the head coach of our basketball team, which was pretty cool. He ate a fuck ton of food, but the Joe interaction. So we go, so there was like a pregame in the practice facility, which is right across the street. We go in to the stadium and, we get a drink. It's open bar. And we're just kind of mixing up. We know some people there. Morgantown's a fairly smallish community. And then they're like, okay, let's go find our seats. And on our way, Megan, my wife, is just like, there he is. And I turn left and my heart is like, he's like 10 feet away. And I'm like, and I have 2 beers in my hands. And I'm like, what do I do with these? She's like, put them down. And I'm like, okay. And then she starts to game plan, right? And I don't know what possessed me. I just fucking beelined it for him and went straight up to him. And I was like, Joe, I'm a massive Celtics fan. Could I please get a picture? Grabbed his hand, shook his hand, nice firm handshake. My wife's got the phone. She turns and he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then for some reason, I don't take a lot of pictures with people that aren't my wife. I delicately placed my hand on the small of his back.
Oh, romantic.
And then immediately turned and said, I'm sorry, I don't know why I did that, and removed it from the small of his back. Did not acknowledge that at all. He just stared stone-faced the whole time while my wife took a picture. And then John Flowers, who is an ex-WVU player, was talking with Joe. I interrupted them. He's like, do you want one with all 3 of you guys? And Joe's like, yeah, sure, come on. So he takes a picture. He's 6'7", so there's several pictures of my wife and me and Joe, but from like this ridiculous angle that's like looking down upon us. But shout out to John Flowers, legend, super nice guy. But Didn't have a chance. Like, he was getting like pretty
Yeah.
consistently mobbed, but so I just got in and out of there. But my wife tried to bring up the podcast while we were taking the picture.
Hell yes.
And she was
Legend.
like, well, you have Abby Chin and Forsberg on.
Amazing.
No fucking reaction from Joe at all.
God. He hates
Did
the
not
media.
respond. Yeah, did not respond at all. And I was like, we don't need to talk about that.
Unless.
Yeah, it was awesome. It
Oh,
was really
man.
he was super gracious, really
Sure.
cool. Really happy to take photos, but not surprisingly, did not seem super interested in small talk with me. But his speech was killer. He crushed it, dude. Like, he had there's probably like 300 people there, 400 people. Everyone was like hanging on his words. He was hilarious. Dropped an F-bomb, and Cammy, we were like right next to his table. Cammy's like, oh, Joe, like, no, why would you do that in public? He just really killed it. But Celtics wise, he talked about the voice of Morgantown. Tony Caridi was kind of the MC of the whole thing, and he was asking Joe questions. It was like a back and forth, and he was like, what's one thing you're focusing on for next season? And the first thing he said was like, 9 of the last championships haven't made it out of the second round in the next year. So I have been spending this entire offseason trying to figure out what that mental block is. Why does that happen? And I'm trying to conquer that. And it was like so intense.
Sploosh, dude.
Dude, I know. It was awesome. It was
Clean up on
awesome.
aisle Jake.
So it was really great. It was an awesome night. We got to watch our basketball coach house 3 chicken breasts, which was really an honor as well. He's a really good guy, but yeah, it was surreal, man. Like, I don't know how many times I'll be able to meet Joe Mazzulla in my life. That may be the last one. So I'm glad I got to do it. Shout out. I don't want to drop her name, but shout out to my wife's friend who is really awesome. And I really appreciate her getting us in the door.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
shout out to her,
That's it.
dude. Joe's the GOAT, but she's the GOAT for getting you
She's
in,
the
getting
goat,
these
yeah.
stories, dude. So many thoughts, so many questions, so many takeaways. My favorite might just be the fact that I imagine Joe just has like infinity amount of those outfits, and just like it's like Celtics coach Steve Jobs, and it's just like the next one up, and he's like wakes up like Dracula. He's ready to be Joe Mazzulla again the next day. He's awesome.
Got to
Dude.
back up in the van in case anything goes wrong.
Yeah.
Did you get a chance to drop any strategic nuggets? Like,
Okay.
man, Sam Hauser's looking a little bit like Carmelo Anthony out there. Maybe he needs some more mid-range pull-ups.
Well, Tatum at the 5 kind of works despite the on-off numbers.
I kid you not. I game planned with my wife. I was like, I guarantee other than him, I know the second most about the Boston Celtics in that building. Like, they're all WVU fans, right? Like, a lot of them probably didn't watch the NBA until Joe was the Celtics coach. So I was like, when I walk up to Joe, should I say Drew Holiday in the dunker spot was genius, or Anton Watson looked really good in summer league? I was there.
Baby.
And all that came out of my mouth was And then I was like, what am I about to say? And then my wife was taking the pictures, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't get it out, dude. I choked, bro. I told you guys,
man,
I'm a
that's
choke artist. I could never make free throws. I was like, Anta. It was so bad, man.
Jake, have you met famous people before, Jake? Like, have you seized up in those moments as well?
No, I think I'm actually pretty good in these moments. I think,
That tracks.
Yeah, it does.
Based on
yeah.
Summer League.
Yeah. But like, you saw me at Summer League, dude. As soon as I see someone, I'm just like, here we go. This is my own personal struggle. I'm constantly just like running through conversations in my brain that will never happen. Like, I've had a million conversations with Bill Simmons and Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown in my own head before. So like, I've got the reps. I've visualized all this stuff like way too often. So that's why I'm ready to dap up Nikias Duncan at like a moment's notice and just be like, dude, love your stuff about Drew in the dunker spot. But it's all right. We'll work on this for the next meeting, and we'll be good to go.
Right. Yeah. Next
Stay ready,
kickoff
crew.
dinner.
Stay ready, crew, conversationally speaking, at least in Jake's case. We would not stay ready for the Mike Zarin interactions that we did not have at Summer League, and I've been rehearsing those conversations in my mind ever since. Even just the walking up and introducing oneself, which is like foundational 101 human socializing.
That was the big regret. But like, we doubted ourselves on if it was actually Zarin in the moment.
Yes.
Because I was like, I don't see him enough, and then I saw, but like, Yeah, so that's the one regret is that like I was kind of circling him and trying to get a look at him, and I was like, I don't know if it's him. And and then I came back to you guys, and you're like, I think it's him. I'm like, I'm not going in with it. I think it's him. it is him. And that's
we need
right.
a photo
next time.
in the wallet next time.
Yeah,
To
dude.
hold it up next to him.
Well, that's the learning is like, we got to study. It's like Ocean's 11. Like, you got to know your marks. You got to know everybody, like the ins and the outs, ready at any moment.
We'll kill it next time. All right, well, we're going to come back in a minute and hand out some hardware, but first, here's a quick word from our friends over at Game
It's
Time.
finally football season. The West Virginia Mountaineers kick off the season against number 8 Penn State in Morgantown. I'll be using Game Time to easily find incredible deals on great tickets in Milan Puskar Stadium to catch the Mounties, hopefully upset the Nittany Lions. When you jump on Game Time, it's got the stadium right in front of you. It's really easy to find awesome seats. You can get amazing deals like the aptly named Super Deal, which can save money and get you a great spot in the stadium. It's also got concert tickets and tickets to a bunch of other shows, so definitely check that out. Personally, I love the all-in pricing, which you toggle on, and Game Time shows you the full price up front, no surprise fees at checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets or sports tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Shout out to Game Time. Shout out to the CLNS network for presenting the First to the Floor podcast and YouTube show. Thanks again to everyone for joining us live here. And please subscribe to the First to the Floor YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the audio podcast, which needs a little numbies boost. We're doing pretty well here on YouTube. We've had a nice little subbies jump recently. We need some people to go show us love over on the audio platforms. Now, we're handing out some prestigious hardware, as previously mentioned, the Honorary ring ceremony. It was a long journey from banner 17 to banner 18. So we want to really pay homage and give out kudos to some of the people and friends that we made along the way. So some criteria to consider here when we're doling out these championship rings. For the players, did you carry an era? Could have been a year, could have been a month, perhaps one magical week in certain cases. Maybe you manufactured many magical moments throughout your tenure as a Celtic, however short it may have been. Did you raise the vibes bar beyond what was expected of you during your Celtics tenure? Were you the source material for memes on a regular basis? Maybe you were a hit candidate during the weird Celtics Twitter days. Basically, in the 10 plus years since the Brad era began, did you spectacularly contribute to the enjoyment of the journey to banner 18? And initially, I was going to set that as the perimeter, just the last 10 years or so. But really, like, if you want to dole out a ring to Bill Russell for posthumously inspiring these guys to go out and ring banner 18, win banner 18 rather, that's fine as well. So previously, we went in alphabetical order, which had me with the last pick. This time, we're going to flip it. I got the first pick. I'm giving the first honorary ring to our guy, Marcus Smart.
With the 6th pick in the 2014 NBA Draft, the Boston Celtics select Marcus Smart.
Marcus Smart's going to return. You can see that. Tatum. Smart. Step back. Three-pointer. It's good.
Rightful number one winner of the first to the floor honorary ring as part of this prestigious ceremony. How could we not give a ring to Marcus Smart? He was with us the whole way, the first draft, in the sort of the first draft pick rather, in the post-KG, post-Paul Pierce era. He became the culture. He became winning plays. He sort of carried the torch. I believe that KG handed off to him. There was even that like iconic moment of them dapping each other up, getting off the floor. That was part of our first intro when we first rebranded to First to the Floor here. He just was the Celtics for so long. And then the ultimate sacrifice had to be made. We had to move on from Marcus Smart in order to get all the puzzle pieces to win banner 18. But for me, there's no one more deserving of an honorary ring than Marcus Smart, guys.
If you're not watching on YouTube, you have to come and watch what Ben just put together.
Yeah, I will say.
This
It was
is
awesome.
I got legit chills watching that one, man. Like, I love Marcus Smart, and he is the one guy I think who is in a tier alone. Like, he legitimately deserves an actual ring. Like, we're going to go through this and there's going to be some fun options, but like, I think they should legitimately consider giving him one. I'm not sure he even wants one. But like, he was so important for this era of Celtics basketball. I think he was really important for the development of the Jays. He was, I mean, that moment where he like pretty much breaks his ankle in Game 6 in the Heat series. It comes back, hits a 3, and they lose, which feels like kind of like a little microcosm of the Marcus Smart experience here. Was like he did so many incredible things, but just like wasn't quite able to help us get over the hump in the end. But you've got the Game 6. You've got Game 6 against Philly. Like, we don't get the Game 7 from Jayson Tatum, the 51-point record, without Marcus Smart being incredible in Game 6 in Philly to keep them in the game, to allow Jayson Tatum to go off at the end of that game. And like, we can go through Marcus Smart moments over and over and over again. And then, the first at the floor, just the embodiment of like that hustle culture, just willing to bleed green, the green hair. I mean, give him 10 rings, dude.
Yeah, give him all the rings. No, I thought you were going to go with the meme pick. I'm glad you did not. I think Smart is like the obvious number one pick in this draft. Like, he, in a lot of ways, resurrected Celtics culture after, the guy that will get taken partially destroyed it in that 1 year. But Smart never missed the playoffs in his entire career as a Celtic. The second he started playing games for the Celtics, they became a winner, despite people thinking we were looking at a multi-year rebuild. And like, he just won a ton of basketball games and never complained when he was coming off the bench, even though maybe at times he was good enough to start. Never complained when he had to guard up, guard bigger guys. Always was willing to put his nose in. Part of his charm, and maybe part of the reason sometimes he broke down a little bit, is because he played every single game like it was a Game 7. But there is no more endearing attribute for a basketball player than someone that plays as hard as Marcus Smart did. And like, truly turned himself into a solid offensive player. Like, he was not anything on the offensive side of the ball when he started. And he was like legitimate, solid 3-point shooter, good to great passer by the time he left the Celtics. So easy honorary number one ring guy. Love you, Marcus.
I believe he still holds the record for most threes made in a game as a Celtic with 11. I think it was against the Suns. And he became like really Maestro Marcus, we used to call him, towards the end there in that sort of Ime tenure where he was really like conducting the orchestra and really like playing as a legitimate like NBA point guard towards the end there, and sort of going beyond the sort of combo two guard, throwing himself on the floor, culture guy, and actually becoming a legitimate starting NBA caliber point guard. All defense first team 3 times as well, which I think is sort of easy to forget, even though he obviously went on to win Defensive Player of the Year in 2022 as well. So incredible Celtics tenure, one of the best. Got to give him a ring. Now, continuing in our reverse alphabetical fashion, Spoonie, I believe you're next.
Okay, so I'm kind of cheating. I know part of the criteria was that like they have to have joined the team after the Pierce KG trade, but this guy, all his important moments were after that trade. I'm going with Smart's kind of longtime backcourt partner, Avery Bradley.
Ooh,
he is the connection between, and I have actually, if I can bring them up, he's sort of the connection between that Pierce KG era and what would become kind of the IT era Boston Celtics, where here I got some AB highlights, where he also, like Smart, like just a super hard-nosed defensive guard, zero offensive game when he entered the league, turned himself into a great offensive, not great, but a very good offensive player.
Capable.
Capable offensive. He averaged 15 a game for the Celtics, 37% from 3. All defense first team, all defense second team with the Celtics, and a dude who ushered in sort of the new era of winning basketball in Boston.
Yeah, dude. I mean, for the 19th overall pick, he had an incredible career. And like, I mean, another hit from Danny Ainge to get Avery Bradley in the 19th range. Like, that's tough. Yeah, number 0 before the current zero, Avery Bradley. Yeah, man, he had some posters and like he was a very visually like appealing defensive player because like he was so good on ball and like really good on some of those like electric guards. Like he was really good on Kyrie as I see him swat Kyrie into the bleachers. Yeah, Avery Bradley, good pick here. I feel like there's different tiers here. Like for me personally, like I'm like Avery Bradley, obviously part of like the transition here, and like I'm not sure I can put him in the Marcus. I think Marcus might be just alone at the top there potentially. But yeah, man, love Avery Bradley.
Took Ray Allen's starting spot as well when Ray was kind of floundering with those bone spurs and his heels and maybe caused like some descendants among the ranks there and causing that Big Three era to unravel. But, age was becoming a factor there anyway, as were the LeBron Heatles Miami Heat. But yeah, what an incredible career Celtic-wise for Avery Bradley. And just... I think I talk about this all the time. Maybe we talk about it all the time on the pod, but there was just that period after Pierce and KG and Rondo where we were just like looking for hope anywhere we could get it. And you see these guys rise above their expectations coming out of the draft, like immediately play like playoff minutes, in the first couple of years of his career, as was the case with Avery Bradley. And you're just like, fuck yeah, okay, immediately something to get our hooks into and get excited about. So yeah, good choice. Take a ring, AB.
Yeah, in like 12 years from now, I'm looking forward to like the Joe Mazzulla, like the next iteration of all these scrappy young guys and like what he turns them into. Because I feel like 19 and 20-year-olds that are hungry, like that's like would just absolutely love being coached by Joe Mazzulla. I have the Time Lord, Robert Williams III.
Curry, great block by George Poole and improves him as a basketball player. Brown puts his head down and followed up by Robert Williams. And get you big-time buckets, one-on-one or attack. Oh, Williams caught a body underneath. And here comes Boston. A 7-0 run to start the fourth and final quarter. Makes it a 5-point game. Certainly did. And off that turnover, Boston now in the midst of a 9-0 run to start the quarter. Lead down to just 3. Curry on the drive. Missed it.
Dude,
monster.
Dude. Man, this is a kind of sad one, I think, a little bit. Just because, like, if you... Like, I was watching highlights of Robert Williams, and Game 6, he has a play where he blocks Steph Curry at the rim again, and he, like, kind of, like, half lands on Jaylen. He goes, like, rolling into the bleachers, like, can barely stand, and... Like this series for Rob in the finals, he was playing like every second game. They had a positive plus minus when he was on the court. And I want to know what healthy Rob Williams turns into. Obviously, I want to see where he ends up on the Celtics. But like, that's the reason he fell in the draft. But healthy Rob Williams, like January to March, Time Lord, was one of the most impactful players in the NBA. I don't care what everyone says. Like defensively, so destructive, and offensively, the offensive rebounding, the passing, and obviously when he was like feeling really healthy on some of these days, and he was like getting his head above the backboard, and like those long arms were reaching to the top of the backboard, just like he blocked so many jump shots. Steph Curry, Jordan Poole. I want to know. Like I think they win the title with him, and obviously it's worked out, but I want to know that universe where his knees and hips and everything just work properly, because he was so special.
Do you remember at its peak, guys, where we were like, oh, and he's got this little baseline Brandon Bass jumper come along as well? Like, is that going to develop? Is that going to be a thing? Is he going to become like an inside-out kind of player? It's a great pick, Jake, because the meme factory as well, all praise be the Riffs man who donned him with the nickname, the Time Lord. Just an incredible nickname origin story there. And so, yeah, from the meme aspect, from the like generating excitement, where's this going to go aspect, and yeah, like kind of an all-time, I don't know if you can call it a sliding doors moment. Maybe you can, because, if he had remained healthy, I doubt we would have traded him. And like, what does this team look like? Have we won a title? How many titles have we won, perhaps? If Time Lord was just like that, like 2022 peak health version of himself this whole time, and probably having developed even further from that point had he remained on the court for as long as we would have liked. What do you reckon, Spoonie?
Yeah, Rob had that what we're seeing with Wemby now, where it's just like, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this before factor to him, where it's like anything, especially on the defensive side of the ball, felt possible. It's like, oh, you need someone to block a Kevin Durant step back? Here's your guy. And it's like, that should be not real. Like, no one should be able to do that. Kevin Durant's 7 feet tall. But Rob was just all over it. And it's like, oh, James Harden's one of the greatest isolation scorers of all time. Even the best wing defenders can't stay in front of him. Well, he can't get by fucking Robert Williams, who is a center. One thing
8 blocks on Harden in that next series with like a sword, like a toe that was like keeping him out. It was like, oh, he's unbelievable.
It's absolutely nuts. And one thing I always loved about Rob is like a lot of dudes who fit that sort of bouncy center, defensive center profile can't shoot free throws, so they can't stay on the court. Rob was a good enough free throw shooter too, man. It was like his game was so perfectly crafted to be like a perennial defensive player of the year, good enough on offense, good enough at free throws, and then legitimately prime Rob Williams is one of the greatest defenders to ever play basketball. I truly believe that. He was that impactful. He was that ridiculous. And it is such a damn shame that injuries are probably taking him away from us.
Yeah, dude, 89% from the free throw line in that 22 finals run. Like,
the jumper was there.
There was like Wemby was like the first guy to have the 5x5 game in however long. Like, if Rob was ever actually able to play 35 minutes, he would have gotten there. Like, oh yeah, that's just and like that was the type, like the type of box scores that he would put up. It was like Jokic, Bam, like Embiid and Robert Williams. Like he could have 8 blocks and 20 points and 10 assists. So he had that triple double against the Suns. He would just have such nutty box scores, and it would match the eye test. It'd be like he just destroyed that entire game on both ends.
Do you think that he low-key helped the playmaking development of the Jays as well? Because it was just at that point developmentally in their young careers, and he was such an easy target, like close your eyes and throw the ball into the sky. Like that kind of helped tease out at least like the thinking, the thought-based approach of like, I can be a playmaker as well, starting off with this incredibly easy target. Or am I just like,
no, I love it.
Ahead of myself here?
Absolutely. You had the yin and the yang. You had a really big target in Rob Williams and a really small target in Enes Freedom, who I'm not sure we're going to get to.
I hope not.
This one.
Just crossing him off my list. All right. I got the next pick, and I got to go with our guy, IT.
Isaiah to the basket.
I'm surprised he slipped this far. No, I mean, we're doing it draft style. It's not really a draft. Everyone is sort of equal opportunity, equally deserving of a ring. But Isaiah Thomas, just going from the like inspiring hope and attracting a new fandom in what was really a rebuilding era, early-ish in Brad Stevens' coaching tenure, kind of make at the time a sort of shruggable, I won't call it a nothing trade, but the acquisition of Isaiah Thomas was sort of bordering on afterthought. It didn't seem like that big a deal at the time, and he'd kind of bounced around a little bit, had some success in Sacramento, but then he was part of that deep point guard lineup in Phoenix and hadn't really jumped off the page too much there. He gets acquired for nothing. Was it Marcus Thornton and a second-round pick? Yeah, which is fucking crazy. And he just goes on to become, during one season, like one of the top 5 players in the league, top 5 MVP candidate at 5'9", I want to say 5'7", 5'9".
In shoes,
Short.
5'9" in shoes.
Yeah, crazy.
Big
And
shoes.
like fucking dominant. And, you know, I've shared some takes about Isaiah Thomas and how he would fare in today's league. But at the time, maybe not hunted to the degree that he would have been hunted nowadays. Maybe I'm looking back with rose-colored glasses, but he was an incredible Celtic. He inspired a generation of fans. There's some like timeless calls with Mike and Tommy calling some of those great IT games as well. It just can't be said enough about how important he was at that point in the Celtics history.
IT is the reason I joined Reddit, because we traded for him and then we just went on this run and ended up making the playoffs. And I was like, I need to like talk about this with someone because my friends don't give a shit because they're like, 38 and 37, nobody cares. But so I was like, screw it. I'm like finding somewhere to talk about what is happening with this team because they also got Jay Crowder too. And all of a sudden this team's like, this is starting to make sense a little bit. And then, they I think they had like a 48 win season the year after. And then of course the run to the Eastern Conference Finals with IT just going bananas. IT, my first 50-point game, I was in the building for him dropping 52 against the Heat, and it was like magical. I honestly think IT is the most universally loved Celtic other than Paul Pierce of like the modern era. Like even definitely more than Tatum and Jaylen Brown, like maybe Horford. But like there was no criticism for Isaiah Thomas. Everyone absolutely loved him, and for good reason, man. We had no reason to think like he was going to be one of the best players in the NBA and propel us like to not just like relevancy, not like second round exit relevancy. Like his sister died and he dragged us to the conference finals, man. Like what a damn legend. Yeah, I probably should have taken him instead of Avery Bradley, but he's totally, he would be my number 2 probably. Yeah. Ben got him. Yeah.
Yeah, we all got him.
Yeah, we all
dude.
got him.
He's the best, man. And it's been a bit of a weird post career for him with the hip and stuff, like trying to get back in the league, and which has been super sad. I'm okay. Well, there's 2 conversations here, which I get. The one is like deserving of the ring, as like the way I thought about it coming in was like, did they like help us create this version of the Jays and of the Celtics to win the title? And like we kind of ended up getting to where we were in spite of IT, because we ended up using IT to trade for Kyrie, which almost like submarined this era of Celtics basketball. And so like there's an argument to be like, if we hadn't traded for IT, would we have ever traded for Kyrie? Which meant we would have kept that 8th overall pick that we'd sent in that trade. We would have kept Ante Zizic, obviously, which is pretty good.
Huge.
Jay Crowder. I can't remember off the top. I mean, they drafted Colin Sexton with that pick, but there are a bunch of guys on the board there. So there is an alternate.
Wanted SGA.
I was gonna say there's the SGA. Reality where it's like, obviously, who knows? Well, of course, that's what Danny says now, right? It's
I know,
like,
yeah.
He's going to draft SGA, but
Want to Draymond too.
But before we won the title, I thought about using that pick on SGA all the time. But now, obviously, it doesn't matter. But like, yeah, that's a weird sliding doors moment. You don't like, and then you don't go into the tank where you lose Horford and Kyrie, because we lose Horford because Horford hated Kyrie as well, and you have that weird Tristan Thompson year. But that's an aside. IT still might be my favorite Celtic ever, purely because of that season. Like, Ben, go ahead. Yeah, I can tell you want to jump in here. I'll keep going after this.
Well, because you almost hit it there, but IT is a huge reason as to how and why we acquired Al Horford. Because in Al Horford's last season as an Atlanta Hawk, him, Paul Millsap, they come into Boston, play a couple of games. We end up losing that series in 6, but Al Horford then later cited the TD Garden crowd. And maybe I'm putting words in his mouth here, but just the energy around IT and that team as his reason for joining the Celtics. So if you don't have IT, there's another name that we'll hopefully get to later as well on that IT squad in 2016. If you don't have the energy and the crowd feeding off them like they were in those moments, perhaps we don't even get Al Horford. So you got to attribute that. That's another reason why IT gets a ring.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's yeah. I can't believe I didn't think of that. I completely forgot. Go ahead, Sweeney.
Well, I was going to say, like, this maybe isn't a good thing, but he's also who attracted Gordon Hayward, too, him and Al, right? I mean, he thought he was playing with IT and Al, and then we trade IT for Kyrie under his nose. But I think that just goes to show IT legitimized this era of Boston Celtics basketball and made it appealing to free agents in a way it really never had. We really never signed free agents in the modern history of the Celtics.
Yeah, I think that's it. Is he brought us back, and that season was just like, that was pure magic. Like the best place to be as a fan is when you're exceeding expectations, and there was no better example of that. Like, we were just like, we're going to trade for IT. Cool. Thornton in a second, and he ends up being 5th in MVP. But I mean, that was such a surreal experience where his sister passes away in the accident. He's like crying on Avery Bradley's shoulder pre-game, and then goes out and drops like 50 in that series. It was like, I was and that was like my first year of watching like pretty much every game. And I couldn't stop. I just could not stop. I'm like, I gotta fucking watch the IT show, dude. He's gonna drop 49 or 50 on the Heat tonight, and Tommy's just gonna be going there like, whoa, like just like literally losing his mind, as we all were. Like, I get chills thinking about it and talking about it. He's such a special person as well. Like, everything about him, incredible.
Yeah. Shout out IT. Now, Spoonie, before we get to your next ring recipient, just to let the folks know, first of all, let us know in the chat who you think should receive an honorary 2024 Boston Celtics championship ring. We are currently in the inner orbit of like clearly deserving candidates. At some point, sooner or later, we are going to slide out into the outer rim for some space junk and perhaps get some lesser deserving names, some spicier candidates. But we're having fun here. We're having a good time. Spoonie, who you got for us?
So this guy in 1920 was top 20 in defensive win shares, top 20 in true shooting, and 9th in block percentage. Daniel Theis.
I knew exactly who you were talking about, and I was hoping he might fall to me, but that's all right.
Theis, like, he not only was he a good backup center when we had Al Horford, when Horford left, he stepped into the starting role. And we made the Eastern Conference Finals with him as a starting center. And this is a dude we plucked out of the German league, and him turning into like a solid, good defensive center with kind of an underrated offensive game. He shot like 34.5% from three while he was here. Really good rim finisher, especially in his first stint in Boston. He had some ups, man. Like, he was a pretty solid above the rim roll man too, like not Rob Williams status, but kind of a level below that. And he was just like a smart, sound, great basketball player. And you want to talk about guys who helped like morph the Jays and help them grow into the players they are, being able to work the pick and pop or the pick and roll with Theis, and like working on the switching defense, because Theis could switch a little bit too. Like, he was kind of the nugget of the blueprint of what you need out of your center in kind of this era of Boston Celtics basketball. And like, out of nowhere, man. And he was just the man. Like, everyone loves Theis. He's just a cool dude. He's awesome. So I love Danny T. Bring him back for one more rodeo. Who cares?
Absolutely. Yeah, dude. Theis, baby. Great pick, man. Like, you have to include Theis. Danny Two Blocks, as Sam Packard used to call him. He was just straight up really, really good. He's got to be one of the better stories of these Euro guys that come over, right? Like, Yabusele, like, that's what he's dreaming his career turns into, right? Like, Theis ended up getting like a 4 for $32 million deal because he played with the Celtics and the Jays. That year, they went to the conference finals with Theis as their starting center. I went back and had a look. Game 6 Toronto, the double overtime game that they ended up losing, he played 47 minutes in that game.
Yeah.
As Daniel freaking Theis, dude. 18.7 rebounds. Game 5, Eastern Conference Finals against Miami, 15 points, 13 rebounds, 3 blocks. The Daniel Theis seal, the Theis seal was like an electric part of the offense, and they kind of pioneered that too. It ended up kind of being outlawed. Again, it felt like the Celtics, like, specifically were the one team not allowed to do it because they were the one team who figured it out the most. He was awesome, dude. He really smart player. Good call on like helping the Jays like learn to play with someone like that. Like, great spacing, really good defensive instincts, just a really, really solid player. And for him to be able to step up into the starting role speaks to how good he was and speaks to how, good the Jays and Smart were around him as well. But incredible. And the war on Theis, dude. The man couldn't get a freaking foul call to save his life. Thank you, Nick, in the chat here, dude. He got punched in the balls every single game and got called like for a flagrant for it.
Yeah, dude. Theis the Celtic, twice the Celtic. He was traded away and came back. Could it be thrice the Celtic? It's not out of the question. I'd love to get Danny T back on the squad. And he's been fantastic for Germany on the international stage as well for quite a while. I was over in the States for work a few years ago. We were doing the pod at that point. I think Jackson and I did a pod from I was in my hotel room in San Francisco, and in the States, like, you're so close to all the American cities relative to where I live in Australia. I just look up where are the Celtics playing. I'll go anywhere. They happen to be in Detroit that night. This is the 2018-2019 season. So I get my ass on a plane to Detroit, get to the whatever the Detroit stadium is called there, have some Detroit pizza rolls, expect Kyrie to go off. Kyrie has 3 points in the game.
Oh my God.
Danny T, high scores with 19 in a takedown
yeah.
of the Blake Griffin Pistons. It was incredible.
Yes.
And, I've been in love ever since, basically. So, huge Daniel Theis fan. Remember that, off-ball cut he made? I think it was game 2 against the Raptors in the bubble, and Kemba Walker hit him on the pass. This is right before the OG Anunoby
game
3 that just fucked up that series. But that was a great off-ball cut by Danny Theis, and just illustrative of his basketball acumen and high IQ. So he was willing to do whatever the team needed of him. Occasionally he would step out beyond the arc and splash a 3 as well. A little undersized, but overall great vibes, very versatile player. Love him. Who's next? Jake? Is it you?
I think it's me now.
It is.
I've got one. I really want to make sure I get the one that I want, and I'm hoping that. But I think it's gonna last here. We can't not mention the guys that led to the era. Starting with.
And it's no secret, Paul Pierce is getting the basketball. Here it comes. Garnett the screen. Pierce driving on Stoudemire, the jumper. Yes! With 4/10 of a second left.
So obviously Paul Pierce, another incredible edit from Ben there. I'm sorry, Ben. I've got to lump these guys together though, and I'm sorry, Ben, that this next 10-second clip is in 240p compared to what you just put together here. But everybody pay attention to Tommy and Gorman in this as well.
Now, when he starts eating his jersey, we'll tell him that's enough.
I just loved Tommy and Mike just laughing. Mike laughing to anything that Tommy says is that's what I need to go to sleep to every night. That's just beautiful, beautiful tones. But yeah, KG and Pierce, man. I mean, they obviously, KG rejuvenates the Celtics era to win Banner 17, but for them to then be used in the trade, we could, I guess, put Danny Ainge in this. Maybe someone else wants to draft him separately. But the Nets trade, this is the only way we're here today. Maybe we find another way to get back to contention, but we wouldn't have. We wouldn't have been getting shots at top 3 picks without that trade, because IT and Avery Bradley and Marcus Smart were all too good. And Bryce Stevens was all too good. So we needed this trade and the disaster of the Nets organization to help us get the Jays. So for them to willingly go into the Brooklyn Nets organization as Trojan horses, can't thank them enough.
Yeah, I would love to ask a current Celtic or a recent Celtic what it was like playing in the shadow of the 08 team, because sort of almost ad nauseum up until now that we've finally won another banner, the amount of times that they would be referenced as the standard and the thing to aspire to, and the 08 team, and we'd always be running clips of that playoff run and of that championship season. I wonder how some of those players felt after a lot of time went by. But, it's sticking in line with why we're handing out these awards, and especially to these two. They did set that standard, and it was something to aspire to for every Celtic who came after them in the modern era. So I do think that they are deserving recipients of honorary rings. Give them a second ring each. Why not? Because they did set that bar high for every Celtic to aspire to. It took us a long time to get there, but I think that was an important thing for our guys to lean up against throughout that time.
And I think there's something to be said about their willingness to be traded too, because they were not difficult about it. They were just like, all right, man, just find somewhere decent for us to go and do what you got to do, Danny, which I think really speaks to the culture and the type of people they are, that they're like, man, it's somewhat a business, but we want the Celtics to be successful. So we understand we can't pull a Dame Lillard and only pick one place or something like that. So, but yeah, it's Pierce and KG. They are Celtics legends. Both their numbers are, up in the rafters for very good reason. So, Tommy and Mike's pure love of that era of the team, and both of them is like absolutely every single time you like pull up highlights from back then, like they are just so giddy and so happy, man. And it seriously, yeah, it is like warms my soul listening to them talk about Pierce and KG, and with damn good reason. They're awesome, and they left it all out there, man. Especially Pierce, who was kind of hated on for not being that type of guy. And the second KG got there, he just fell kind of right in line with like, I'm going to kill myself on the basketball court. And it was pretty effective overall, I'd say. Yeah. Shout out Billy King. He gets an honorary ring too. Thanks, buddy.
Hell yeah.
Shout out RJ in the chat as well. Ainge gets an honorary ring for 2 first-round picks. I'm sure Ainge can make that trade happen for us, Jake.
Well, yeah, I feel like you can't give Ainge a ring without getting some kind of negotiating going. I think Ainge would appreciate that. So yeah, Ainge definitely gets an honorary ring. I mean, look, all these guys we're talking about are like direct results of Danny Ainge moves. So he absolutely gets one.
I'm sure he goes off and pawns the ring for multiple poorer rings that have high upside in the future or something like that. Now, we're going to come back and hand out a whole bunch of extra hardware, but first, here's a word from our new friends over at Factor Meals.
So about a year ago, a big cold box was delivered to my front door. It turns out my wife had decided to order Factor. It was one of the best decisions she's made. The first meal I had was like this chili mac and cheese, and I've been hooked ever since. It's absolutely delicious. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So no matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Make today the day you kickstart a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? Treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon. Keep kitchen time to a minimum. Factor meals are ready in 2 minutes. No shopping, prepping, cooking, or cleaning up. Enjoy effortless support for your lifestyle. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, which is not my selection, but some people do enjoy that, or simply eat well-balanced. Head to factormeals.com/floor50 and use code FLOOR50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code FLOOR50, floor50 at factormeals.com/floor50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active.
Dog, I want to order this, man. I don't think they're going to be delivering to the middle of nowhere in Tasmania, but
You never know.
If we get enough floor 50 people in the chat, maybe they'll get going there. Man, I got hungry listening to that one.
It's delicious. Yeah.
It's notable as well. We've got our own promo code as well, floor50. That's a pretty good deal. 50% off your first box and 20% off the next month. So if you want to show us some love, and if you want to show Factor Meals and probably your digestive health some love as well, use that promo code with Factor Meals and show our new sponsors that we are worthy of their partnership. Now,
it's all about balance, dude. It's like, gambling and healthy eating in the off season. All right. You got to do both.
Of course. All about that balanced lifestyle. Now, guys, back into the ring ceremony. I've been keeping this ring in a special case, in a special cabinet. It's an extra special bejeweled ring for one Jordan.
Come on!
Hell yeah.
The original Brad Stevens disciple, guys. The first player that made us think, holy shit, what is Brad Stevens cooking up there with the clipboard in Boston? And, of course, I mentioned a magical week in one's Celtics tenure. Earlier to begin the show, on the 9th of December 2013, Jordan Crawford, Eastern Conference Player of the Week, averaging 23.5 points per game, 6 assists, 3 rebounds on 61% shooting, helping the Celtics go 3-0 for the week and helping to build initially the image, the now mythical image of Brad Stevens, guys. I'm surprised that Jordan Crawford slipped this far to me in the now what I'm calling a draft.
Yeah, I mean, Jordan Crawford. What more can you say other than
Yeah,
hey, we got
I
2
know.
seconds for him? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, dude.
I've got a book coming out later this year.
Yeah. It's pretty short. It's only about that week. It chronicles the week, hour by hour. But Jordan Crawford says the most about Brad. You hit it there, Ben. Just like he could turn a dude who is effectively a chucker that ended up on a tanking Celtics team and turn him into a valuable asset. Getting 2 seconds from Golden State was just like, oh, wow, this is going to work somehow. Like, it might take a while, but this is probably going to work. But Crawford was one of those dudes, like when he had it, when he was hot, he looked completely unstoppable. Like if you caught him on the right night, it was like, is this dude one of the best players in the NBA? No. The answer was no. He is absolutely not one of the best players in the NBA. But sometimes he looked sometimes he looked like it. That was always fun. In what was like really the only bad season we've had since KG joined the team. It's the only time we haven't made the playoffs, which is pretty damn crazy. That's going on 20 years almost.
Yeah, on the right week, specifically the 1 week, if you happen to become an NBA fan that week, like you be like, what happened to JC? Not to be confused with Jesus Christ. That was I think that was the 2014 season, right? That was like my first year at university, and probably like the least amount of sports I watched in my life was that year.
I missed out, man.
Yeah, I know, and so I really didn't hit the. I timed it well. I replaced Jordan Crawford and Celtics well. I disagree.
I will not stand for this JC slander. What are we doing, guys? What are we doing? Come on.
Oh man!
All right, we better move on. What do you got, Spoonie?
Okay, all right. I mean, he, to a lot of people represents the absence of Giannis Antetokounmpo, but in his own right had some massive moments for the Celtics and memes on point, neon Jesus, burying threes. I got Kelly Olynyk.
Clock is down to 4. Olynyk goes to work. Corner there defensively. Olynyk gets the roll. Kelly Olynyk can do no wrong. Thomas, the jab step. Olynyk a 3. Oh, Kelly Olynyk, the game of his life.
I mean, the game 7.
Jesus?
Yeah, so he had a picture when he was a rookie where they had like this neon green light behind him, and like people just started calling him Neon Jesus. Because I'll see if I can find the picture quick. But yeah, like Olynyk 37% from 3, the game 7 against Washington. Sneaky, okay-ish defensive player.
Yes.
Good passer, great pick and pop guy. And once in a while would put it on the floor and kind of like yam it. And that was always really fun. But also just like Canadian, good vibes Canadian, can never have too many of those dudes. So Olynyk, kind of a IT merchant, but he was solid. We love Kelly.
Hey man, we got him another beneficiary of the Brad Stevens development team to get these monster contracts, dude. Like, you just, what did he get? Like a $15 annual $1 million salary when he went to the Heat? Like, I do think that he has been perennially underrated his entire career, essentially. To be a 7-footer that can stretch the floor legitimately, like be a willing shooter at 37% and be sound positionally, like to be a two-way guy like that. Some nice post stuff. He has those leaning scoop shots we saw in that video as well. He was just a really good player.
Incredible.
Yeah, dude, underrated Kelly O. I think, where is he now? Is he in Toronto?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they
Toronto
Rifle
now?
place.
And I think he's back home, baby.
All right.
Who was the wizard that he got in a fight with? And they
Wasn't
ran
it
up to
Oubre?
him? Yeah, it was Kelly Oubre.
Yeah, that was
awesome
so
playoff
weird.
series.
It was like
That was really weird.
Oubre just thought that like Kelly had done something, and Oubre took like a full running, like tried to tackle him kind of thing. And another takeaway is like, I feel like the NBA has like become a lot more talented in the last 7 years. Like, I love that IT Kelly Olynyk team, but second round playoff series between that Celtics team and the Washington Wizards with Bradley Beal and John Wall, like that feels like a first round matchup. as opposed to a Eastern
Play-in
Conference
game.
semifinal. Yeah, right. Which is just something that I noticed.
Now, Jake, hit us with your pick. We'll go around one more time after that. We'll hit with some quick honorable mentions. We'll hit on the KP spicy workout video, and then we'll get the hell out of here. So what's your pick, Jake?
Yeah, we can't actually give this ring to anybody just yet, and I couldn't find clips of this person, but the 2028 pick swap that we sent out in the Derek White trade, this guy is probably
in middle school,
like 14 right now. Whenever he gets drafted, we're gonna have to save a ring for him because, and as much as as much as I love Romeo Langford, as much as I know who Romeo Langford is and was, and enjoyed the Josh Richardson experience for half a season, the 2028 pick swap is what got the Derek White trade done. So that 2028 pick swap, once you enter the league, we'll be sending you a ring, and I'm looking forward to it.
Cuts to Brad Stevens like knocking on the door of some middle school classroom and beckoning some random kid out the door. Yeah, we're in the outer rim here, folks. But that's a great pick, a very valuable asset to that ring. Any thoughts, Spoonie?
Yeah, maybe one of the most valuable assets, Thank you, Pop, for being willing to, at the time, a person who was probably 10, which is great. So we really appreciate it. Brad showing up. Is Marshall here? I've got a present for Marshall. So yeah, it's great. Love it. Thank you for Derek White.
All right, we'll go around one more time, and this is potentially a not too favored pick. Gordon Hayward, guys.
Feeling great about our win. It was a big time win for us. They started out the first quarter hot. We battled through that, then took control of the game.
Hear me out on Gordon Hayward,
boy.
okay? Okay, we talked about at a time we did not have the allure towards free agents that we might have now. And we talked about Isaiah Thomas being a huge drawing card there with, firstly, Al Horford, and then later Gordon Hayward. At the time, Gordon Hayward was at the peak of his career now. We can now say in hindsight, the absolute literal peak of his career. He chose us over Miami. He went down to Miami, better weather, the more favorable conditions generally. A lot of people speak highly in the NBA of Miami as a city to play in and live in. They had the
More
banners
demonic.
up on the sides of the road, beckoning Hayward to join their team. He chose us instead, which is a huge tip of the cap to the Celtics and the vibes that we were bringing without the advantages that Miami have weather-wise and geographically speaking. As well, he missed the birth of his fucking child to continue to play injured for us in the bubble. Huge sacrifice. I think, obviously, what happened to Gordon Hayward is tragic. Outside of his control, we know who threw him that pass. We also know that Jay Crowder undercut him on that alley-oop attempt. All of these things out of his control. It's not his fault how badly things went. So I think, throw him a ring, guys. Why not? Throw him a little honorary ring.
I don't know,
Man. Dude, he's like, even the video you showed, like, I remember that so vividly.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was like the Timberwolves. He went like 5 for 5 from 3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's just the most milquetoast dude. I don't know, like he's like every step of the way, it just felt like, in hindsight, like there was just no juice there. Like I wanted him to be good at basketball so badly, but even when he was good, it just never felt like, when it feels right. And RJ in the chat right now, no one has claimed Blake. Like the feelings you felt when Blake Griffin was on the team, just like pale in comparison to the level of vibes that Gordon Hayward was able to contribute at any point. And maybe that's because he lost a piece of his soul the same night that he lost his leg. But that's how I feel.
Yeah, he makes Jayson Tatum look like Miles Davis on like the cool factor. You know what I mean? But look, I get it. I appreciate the sacrifice. And then he sacrificed for the team in the bubble and then immediately declined his option and left. It's like kind of like, fuck you too, dude. Like, but
he got to Charlotte for $120 million. It was like, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah. You congratulations. You just retired. Charlotte's a beautiful city though. So I guess I get it. But I don't know. I do appreciate that. And when he was good, he was really damn good. And he fit perfectly with the Jays. It's hard to have 3 high usage wings on a team. And Hayward was the guy who was willing to sacrifice and be kind of the ball mover. He was like the 6'8" Derek White on that team in a lot of ways. So I appreciate that aspect of it. But it ended pretty ugly, you know, and that kind of colors it a little bit for me. But fuck it, give him a ring. Why not?
Yeah, and I mean, Crawford left it around the same time, right? For similar reasons of just the bad vibes around the team. So I wouldn't like fully attribute that to Gordon Hayward. Like, I get it. Like, it was a bad vibes tenure stretch for the Celtics. I don't want to call it a pity ring, but like I do feel bad. You know,
feels like it's definitely a pity ring.
Like, he did grace us with his presence at a time where we were desperate for like any free agent of that tier, like Paul George, Kevin Durant. These are other names, so obviously another tier, but like these are names that are being thrown around. We were just desperate. We had all these pieces. We just needed one more guy, particularly like a good all-star level wing, and he came, and it sucked from that moment onwards. But the fact that he came, I'm appreciative of that. I'm thankful of that. So
there's a universe out there, so
maybe it's a private ceremony, just me and Gordon, where I give him a ring without the audience and the chat booing me here. But let's move on.
There's a universe out there somewhere where the Celtics won a ring with healthy Gordon Hayward and healthy Robert Williams. And like healthy Gordon Hayward, like that, the healthy Gordon Hayward, I wish we could have seen it, dude, because he was a straight up like freak. He was so fucking good at basketball, dude. Like a legit like 6'8" wing, Western Conference All-Star, and a stacked Western Conference at the time. But alas, not our universe.
Yeah. All right. I'll be quick, but the dude I'm taking is the dude that we traded Gordon Hayward in a sign and trade for to Charlotte. It's Kemba Walker. And note on Al Horford, he did say like, if I knew they were getting Kemba, oh shit, I would have stayed. Gordo did not, he didn't care. He was out the door. So, but Kemba, I think we had to come back from that disastrous season, and Kemba coming to the team, and kind of ceding to the Jays, especially once Tatum started going bananas, in January, and just like keeping the good vibes rolling. He was an all-star that first season with us, gave it his all. He was just a totally amazing vibes and electric in an IT, like a not quite as electric as IT, but up there when he had it going. So love Kemba, great dude.
Yeah, man. Do you remember like how amazing the vibes were for that first until the All-Star game? Like he ends up being the All-Star starter, and we're coming off that Kyrie year, and we're like, oh my god, this is what it feels like to have an actual leader on the team. This is what it feels like to have like a really awesome, joyous guy full of vibes for this team. He was perfect for what they needed after that season. Man, it's just like between him, Hayward, and Rob, like all three of them just completely fell apart from an injury perspective. And we're never going to know if like the reason he really fell apart was like Nick Nurse being a terrorist and playing him over his minutes restriction in the All-Star game. But like that was absolutely a flashpoint, and he never recovered. Like you go back and look at some of his splits from that conference finals run. It's like a fucking miracle they made the conference finals with Kemba Walker playing as badly as he was. Like that game 6 overtime game they lost to Toronto, he was 2 for 11. It's just like there are so many brutal shooting nights, and he's like, it's not like when Tatum goes 6 for 22 and he's giving you everything else that he's giving you on both ends. It's just like you're out there because you're a scorer, and you're going 5 for 19 and 2 for 11, and we're somehow still making the conference finals. Again, another universe where it's like if he'd just been healthy, Kemba, they'd probably make the finals. And then like the next year as well, he was a shell of himself all year long. He didn't even make it to the playoffs. And then again, he now can't even play in Europe. He's so done. He's coaching in Charlotte. So another like bittersweet one. He was so amazing for that for such a short period, dude. I mean, Gordon Hayward was
months.
Dude. He was 5 minutes for Gordon Hayward and 5 months for Kemba Walker. A tough little era for us.
I just have one note next to Kemba on my sheet, which was that he was brought in as the minister for vibes restoration and succeeded in his tenure in that role, which is like exactly what we needed from him. Would have been nice to go a little bit deeper in those playoffs run, but huge, like correcting the course of the Jays' development at that point in their young careers. Jake, we got one more ring to hand out. What do you got?
I got all of Australia. Aaron Baines. to quote the great
Bainesy.
Tommy Heinsohn, Bainesy. I mean, he and Al Horford were the pioneers of the original double big lineup. Aaron Baines and Al Horford walked, so Rob Williams and Al Horford could fly. And I'll never forget the fact that he was like 5 for 21 in the regular season on threes, and then it shot like 40% on threes, and it just exploded from the 3-point line in that Philly series. He was awesome, dude. Like, he was just a really, really solid player for the Celtics for a couple of years there, and obviously a little bias from the Australians here, but he was legit. He was awesome for the Celtics. He had that beautiful little pop shot from like the free throw pick and pop range. Man, Bainesy.
Do you remember how many times he got hit on the dong?
Yeah.
We talked about big
know.
targets
We can't
earlier.
miss it.
Yeah, bro. Injuring other players' appendages with his own appendage.
Yeah. He set monster screens too. I always love when somebody just like obliterates people with screens. And like one of those dudes, you love him when he's on your team because he's this tough bastard, and it's like no one's gonna fuck with you if Aaron Baines is out there with you. Like,
I just remembered when he got hit in the nuts in one game, and he's on the sideline just like screaming like to get the pain away. He's just like, ah! Okay, cool. My testicles feel better now. What a psycho.
It's its own sentient thing that you can yell at and revive vocally.
Right, yeah.
Amazing. Any honorable mentions, guys? Shemi Ojeleye, dimensionally speaking, maybe the best Celtics draft pick in the last 25 years.
Oh my God, dude.
2020 bodybuilding.com's best body in the NBA, if you can believe it. So.
Dude,
Wow.
I came out of one of the
Monster.
summer leagues and legit said that I think he's going to be a Celtics X Factor.
Yeah.
He couldn't get a block or a steal to save his fucking life, dude. It was brutal. Yeah.
There was one season he had like 7 blocks or something like that,
Insane.
which makes no
So
sense.
insane.
I've got a handful from that kind of like initial IT's first season or two. Sully, Jared Sullinger, I was always a believer. Loved him. He averaged 13, 8, and 2 in his like 3 primary seasons with the Celtics, if you get rid of his rookie year. Tyler Zeller, I kind of hated him, but
soft hands.
Yeah, he was extremely soft hands. Had that spin move finish that was always kind of sweet. Jonas Jerebko, legend.
The Swedish
Stretch
fish,
four.
dude. Let's go.
Stretch 4 before a stretch 4. Brandon Bass, great vibes, baseline mid-range jumper, and of course Aaron Nesmith.
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
you don't get. So I was like,
That was Brogdon.
I'm not putting Brogdon, but you don't get Drew without getting Brogdon, but you don't get Brogdon without getting Theis and Nesmith, obviously. So I'll allow it.
Tito Three Sticks, Terry Rozier. Actually,
Yeah.
we talked about
Yeah.
that Washington series earlier. He had a big corner 3, like very critical corner 3 make in that series before he became Scary Terry, which I thought was pretty cool. And he had fun in that awesome 2018 playoff run as well. Greg Steemsma. All right, let's wrap it up there. All right, before we go,
Evan
Russell,
Turner.
Yeah, Evan Turner. Evan Turner was a good one. We saw Landon in the chat with Evan Turner, who was the other name that I wanted to bring up earlier, actually, as part of that,
He was
that
awesome.
early IT team that enticed Al Horford to come and sign with the Celtics. And good vibes guy. Evan Turner came back on the coaching staff for a cup of tea a couple of years ago, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, you realize it was way too much work for way too
Yeah,
little money
fuck this.
for someone that signed a $72 million contract. He's like,
Yeah.
no way, dude. Starting a podcast with Iguodala.
Now, we're way over time here, but just quickly, we've got to get to some news around our favorite Latvian Moses one, Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, there's no sound on this video, but it's
Thanks,
literally just Porzingis shooting one-legged free throws. He makes every single one. I'm envisioning him like in a Latvian gym somewhere, just shooting. I'm guessing the injured ankle was the left ankle, right? It was like the opposite leg to the calf, which was the right calf. This gives us essentially 0. I mean, he's barely not even wearing workout clothes. Like, it just looks like he was going somewhere and there happened to be a court nearby. He's wearing just a white t-shirt and like khaki shorts. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll get some one-legged free throws up. But hey, jumper looking good.
Didn't miss, baby. That's all that matters. Yeah. I don't know. Like, why is it so dark in there? It's very kind of a bizarre video in a lot of ways. But shot go in from big guy. That's good stuff. So
We'll take it.
at least he's like up and walking around, right? Like that seems like a positive.
Yeah. I mean, he played in the last game. Like, he wasn't like
I know.
in a wheelchair.
So that was a lot of fun.
He's up and walking around. Congratulations, Grandpa.
Hey, I mean, it's a data point, right? He's up.
Absolutely.
Shooting much better on one leg than I can shoot on two legs. I'll tell you that much.
Walking.
Facts. Absolutely.
He's at least hopping around.
Oh,
Folks,
Ime.
we've
Shit,
gone
we didn't talk about
way.
Ime. Yeah.
Ooh, I think for good reason. But
Yeah. I mean, we don't get Joe without getting Ime. At the
it's
same
true.
time. I don't know.
We saw Gigi Datome in the chat as well.
Yeah.
Shane Larkin. There's some good ones.
Shane
Folks,
Larkin.
let us
Go.
know in the chat. Anyone we missed watching the show later, let us know in the comments, the Spotify comments, who you would like to have an honorary ring handed out to. Who knows? We'll do it again after Banner 19 next year. So I'll get those names in the bag for us now. Thanks for sticking with us. We went very long here, especially Spoonie. It's very late there. We've got to get you out of here. But Jake, we've got a podcast coming up Thursday night. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so we're going to be starting our Rivals series. So we're going to get, content creators from rival team podcasts on to talk about their team, but also get their thoughts on my kind of go-to. All I want to get out of this really is nailing down like people's actual ranking of Jayson Tatum. I'm like, everybody talks shit about Tatum. Where do you want to go on the record about where you actually have Jayson Tatum? So that's like my number one question for all these people. But we're starting with Sam Esfandiari from the Light Years podcast. I figured it would be a good place to start with the Warriors, put a bow on the Steve Kerr terrorism against Jayson Tatum, and kind of go from there. But so that's coming up Thursday evening, a bit late, so 7:30 p.m. Pacific time.
Awesome. Live on this channel, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that one. All right, that's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. Spoonie, Jake, love your work, guys. Until next time, go Celtics.